What is good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of To the Galaxy Pod, NBA To the Galaxy Pod, featuring your hosts, myself at Scotty Drown, and my boy Slim. You get to know the government today. You can see it on the screen. My man Jeremy, but we call him Slim on here. Whatever you guys prefer out there in the comments, that's what you'll address my man by here. You can find him on X at RTR30111. You can find myself at Scotty Drown shown on the screen there. My man, Slim, we are back for it's basically our second season. Like we kind of picked up halfway through the season last year, started really getting together for every episode, and we get our first initial full season together this year, which I'm really excited about to get it kicked off with you here tonight. But how you feeling, man? Friday night, Friday evening. We're getting into some of the busiest time of year when it comes to all around sports. I mean, you got NBA, you got MLB playoffs, you got the NFL going right now, college football, college basketball is starting tonight as well. I know Duke is doing their little Cameron Crazy night, so that's getting started here shortly, man. How you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good, man. Like you said, got all that going on, as well as the WNBA playoffs as well.
Thank you for plugging that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, just the best time of the year. I feel like, basketball, we both feel about it. It's going to be a fun, exciting season for sure. Not necessarily just for our teams, but the NBA in general. Just a lot of things definitely transpired this past offseason, man. And, I can't wait for us to talk about this big trade that just happened last week. But, yeah, man, I'm doing good. I can't complain.
No, I love it. I love it. You're right. There is a huge trade that happened this last week that I think caught everybody by surprise, including the players themselves. I feel maybe everybody outside of Julius Randle, right, that went to Minnesota, which was kind of it sounds like what he wanted to do out of all the options. Yeah. It is an interesting trade. It could kind of reshape both conferences in a sense, depending how you feel for each team. But there's a lot to get into here, and we can start right there, man. So let's start from the New York Knicks side. Obviously, they make the trade. They move Julius Randle. They moved Dante DiVincenzo, which I thought was very, very interesting because he was a guy that personally I'm glad to see him off of the New York Knicks as a Sixers fan. That guy killed us in the postseason. And his shooting, the floor spacing, he's a tough guy. He's athletic. They ship him out. Apparently, he wasn't down with the whole Villanova vibe up in New York. That was a little odd, but what did you think about it from New York side of things? How did you feel about their return? Karl Anthony Towns fit with the team. What are your thoughts there?
I gotta give them a lot of credit, man. They literally built that team to beat the Celtics. Like if you go down the list of their starting lineup, they match up pretty well with everybody that's on the Boston Celtics. And then them getting Cat ultimately I said that'll help them put them over the hump. They definitely can make a long run. I love the additions. Definitely sucks to see Dante go, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, it is a business, and I'm sure that the Timberwolves wouldn't have accepted anybody else but Dante, so they had to get the deal done. So, yeah, but I definitely see the Knicks' perspectives on why they decided to ultimately pull the trigger and get a guy like Cat.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, man. And I don't know. I think I'm still deciding here as we came on live on who I really and truly believe. I don't know if it's that I think they won. I'm trying to figure out how to word it here because I'm very torn on who I believe won this trade. And the New York Knicks fit, I think clearly he's a better fit than Julius Randle is, right? Like the floor spacing, even the size, he's just a bigger guy in general to match up with some of the bigger guys in the Eastern Conference. The floor spacing is what really intrigues me about Cat on that team. He's not going to be relied on to, go and get buckets. And it's not that he was relied on that necessarily in Minnesota, but he was their second scoring option, right? And it's not, it doesn't have to be like that in New York. It might be like that. He might be their second best scorer, but it doesn't have to be. You got Mikal Bridges. You got, oh my goodness, why is it? OG Anunoby. I don't know why that slipped off my head, but obviously Jalen Brunson is the main guy there that can go out and get you 30 a night. So I do love the fit. The defensive side of things is interesting for New York because I'm interested to see I guess you start Cat at center. Is that what you would do at this point? Like,
yeah, I
or do you
would think.
start him and Mitchell Robinson? It's big, but then you're like approaching like that, like Rudy Gobert pairing. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar in that sense, and I don't know if that really worked for Minnesota.
Yeah, I think they would probably start him at the 5.
Yeah,
Although like Cat isn't just necessarily like great shot blocker, but I think he's more effective at the 5 than the 4. If that makes sense. Especially like if you pair him with Mitchell Robinson, I don't know how good of an idea that is because
yeah.
Mitchell not necessarily just a shooter or anything. He's more so like a lob threat. So yeah, but we'll see. I'm sure, but I will say this: I'm sure there will be time where they both be on the court together. I just don't know if they should start together though.
Yeah, it's going to highly depend on lineups that they're playing
Matchups, yeah.
against. Obviously,
Matchups,
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm getting the roster pulled up right now. Who's
So more
going
than
to
likely,
start it?
the lineup will probably be Brunson,
Yeah,
Josh Hart,
Josh Hart is the
Josh,
guy I was forgetting.
Mikhail,
Josh Hart is the
OG,
guy I
and
was
then
forgetting.
Cat. So yeah, they got a pretty nice lineup over there, man, for sure.
No, that is a great starting lineup. Quite honestly,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, you got Jalen Brunson, you got Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, whoever you want at the 2 and 3, right? And then Josh Hart at the 4. You got, well, I guess they're saying Josh Hart is a shooting guard on ESPN. They got the positions just all
Yeah, I mean,
mixed
I can
up on
see.
ESPN,
I think
but
it'd be best if OG were to be the starting 4 to match up with the likes of like a Giannis. So yeah, I can see that.
I think of Josh Hart as a forward just because of his rebounding prowess, but maybe I'm wrong with the way they kind of line up and match him up. I don't know. I didn't remember him like guarding guards whenever we played against the Knicks last year, but things will change ultimately with their acquisitions. I'm just taking a look at the rest of their roster here. You got Miles McBride, which you lose Dante DiVincenzo, that gives more room for yeah, Deuce McBride. So you don't lose that much. And I did read something that they feel like they can get similar production from a guy like Landry Shamet, which maybe,
I
maybe.
seen that too. Yeah,
He's not as athletic, but he can score the ball. He can shoot it for sure. Brought in campaign, so they got some depth there. I do see Precious.
Precious. I was just gonna say that they got
Did
Precious.
he actually sign back there?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so he did actually sign back, which is good for their depth. Obviously, they lost Isaiah Hartenstein, so that does hurt a little bit. But you do have Mitchell Robinson, Precious Achua there.
Sure.
Nonetheless, I do like it for the Knicks. Now, let's take it to the T-Wolves side, right? You get Dante DiVincenzo, you get Julius Randle in this deal. Those guys being the two bigger acquisitions there. How do you feel about this fit with Minnesota and with Rudy Gobert and with Anthony Edwards and some of the guys out there, the Jaden McDaniels of the world, right?
Yeah, okay. Honestly, I could definitely see why Minnesota pulled the trigger, and it was really more so from a financial standpoint too. Like, I mean, Nas Reed, Rudy, Cat, and then Anthony Edwards. That's a lot of money on your payroll,
Yeah.
man. So somebody had to be the odd man out, and with all due respect to Rudy Gobert, I mean, teams not just necessarily calling to, pick up a guy like that because he's making a ton of money in
That's
the NBA.
facts.
So yeah, but from a fit standpoint, like Randall, I feel like Randall can provide some things that Cat necessarily didn't. Like more so from a physicality standpoint, I will say Randall is more, physical than Cat is, and you can argue he's a better playmaker and even tougher rebounder, things like that. But I say the big question for them is like, how can the pairing of him and Rudy, stay on the court together?
How does
Because
that look?
Randall not necessarily the shooter that Cat was, well, he is
Yeah.
rather. And so I think that'll kind of be the most challenging part about this. But I think that them getting Dante though, man, that's a huge win. Like
Yeah.
having a guy like that coming off your bench is just, it's added to that depth. I mean, you still got Nikhil Alexander Walker, Joe Ingles, the rookie, Rob Dillingham.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dillingham. I forgot about him, man.
And you got Nas
Terrence
Reed. So they got,
Shannon. Terrence Shannon Jr. as well,
yeah,
man.
Terrence. Yeah, they got a nice bench over there. And you add a guy like
Yeah.
Randall to the mix, maybe they can do something. But I actually like the addition of Randall. I like Cat more, but Randall isn't necessarily a bad fit, So
Yeah, and he brings an interesting dynamic to their team. He is a little bit more physical, like you said. He has maybe a little bit better of like a go-to package for a bucket, if that makes sense. Like I'm
Yeah,
not saying
that
he's a
makes
better scorer than I guess I am kind of saying that. Just
that's
as far
fine.
as a bag, that's what I mean there. I'm not saying necessarily a better scorer, but maybe that
Yeah,
is
one
what I'm
thing.
ultimately saying.
Yeah, one thing about Rondo, this brother can miss like 29 straight shots. He's not
You
going to
gonna
stop
keep
shooting.
you gonna
He's
keep
going to
going.
keep shooting, bro.
Anthony Edwards gonna hate that shit, bro.
Yeah, he
He's
gonna be
gonna
like,
hate that.
man.
But well, no, they do have interesting personalities that maybe they can mesh well and they can figure it out, right? Work together to figure out the balance there. I do like your point about Dante DiVincenzo, and I thought Darius made a pretty good point here in the comments as well. Talking about the Knicks, they already didn't have Julius Randle last year, so they basically just trading Dante DiVincenzo for Cat and then adding Mikal Bridges, which is fair to say. You lose
That's fair. Yeah.
Hartenstein, but
Yeah, that's
it's not
fair.
that
Yeah.
big a deal now.
I kind of figured that Randall was on his way out because I mean, you look at the run the Knicks had last postseason, man. Like they were just a
Yeah,
better team without him. So,
yeah,
and I don't know if he would have, fit in with the way they played. If he was more comfortable not taking as much shots and things like that. So,
man. You know what I just thought about with the Timberwolves that I think could be interesting. It's a little small, don't get me wrong, but running Julius Randle with Nas Reed
Nice
at the
read. Yeah.
5, man, that makes so much sense,
It
dog.
does. It
Like
really does. Yeah. I can see
the
them
way
closing
he
the
can spread the
games.
floor.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see them closing games like that.
yeah. No, I do agree with that, man. And they brought in Joe Ingles as well, man.
Yeah. They got a
It's
nice
not
bench over there, man,
not
for
a
real.
crazy player, but he's a good role player for sure.
He's a veteran,
Nickeil Alexander
still can hit
Walker.
threes, still a
Yeah.
solid defender, he can make plays, so yeah.
Darius said run Randall at the 3. That would be
Ooh.
disgusting, I feel. I don't know. Randall at the 3.
Ah
Who's
man.
he
I
guarding?
mean,
That's my only thing, man. Like, who's he guarding
yeah,
at the 3?
it depends on matchups. I'll say it depends on matchups for sure.
It
Basically, let's
is
put it like this:
interesting.
like a big team like Denver, I'm sure that he can probably hold his own against a
Against
guy like
Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon,
Mm,
MPJ, guys like this.
that's not a bad proposition.
So
So
you would put McDaniels at the 2 and then Ant-Man at point guard, I guess.
a point guard, that's a big ass lineup for
It is,
sure.
it is. That's a gigantic lineup, man. Rudy and
Yeah,
then
because
Niles.
McDaniels isn't going to go to the bench. He's just too good defensively.
Yeah.
Nah, they got options. I think that's the bigger thing that we are kind of talking through here. They have a ton of
Yeah.
depth and they have a bunch of options they can use in the postseason.
Speaking of options, not only that, like from a contract standpoint with Julius, like if this thing doesn't go well, they can always flip him at the trade deadline. And I think he's
Yeah,
a free agent after this season, or he
yeah.
got a player option or something like that. So they definitely got options with him.
Man, I mean, I know I agree with what you said at the beginning of the segment about Rudy Gobert, but can you try to move him somehow? Like, I don't know who would
I
take
think
him, but
Rudy and Bradley Beal probably are the most, and Zach Levine probably got the most untradeable contracts in the league, man. I'm not gonna lie to
that's a
you.
great point. Yeah, those guys do fit into similar categories, but for different reasons, right? Zach Levine, it's more of that injury history, the inconsistency, but nonetheless, man, I do like what the Timberwolves did here. Dante
Mhm.
DiVincenzo, he's gonna be like that 6 man off the bench, that scoring punch off the bench, which is nice. Um,
Yeah.
all that being said, who do you think won this trade, man? New York or Minnesota here?
Easily New York, easily, in my opinion. Like obviously, like losing Dante is huge, but overall, I feel like they still won. Like when you look at what they added plus Cat, like it
Yeah,
doesn't get any better than that. You re-sign OG, you brought in Mikal, still got Brunson and Josh, and you add a guy like Cat. Like that just I feel like that's the missing piece for them, a stretch big, which is kind of hard to come across. And
yeah.
we say a lot of negative things about Cat, but one thing for sure, he is one of the best shooter big man in his league. So yeah, you pair a guy like that alongside Brunson, I'm pretty sure they'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, no, I do feel you. I've gone back and forth here. Just thinking about who I think won, but I think you do have to go with the Knicks here. Just in the forefront. The deal for what it's worth right now, you have to go with the Knicks. Before we see anything happen, I have to go with the Knicks because what Cat presents and the way he fits, I just think it's a lot cleaner fit than what Randall is ultimately going to be there in Minnesota. Now you do get Randall and Dante DiVincenzo. That's why I did have to weigh it out a little bit here, because I do think Minnesota could be getting something that they were missing in a sense. If Randall and Edwards can figure it out, how to work together, how to fit together, it could get interesting out there. Because the one thing about Randall is that he is a dog. He does have that intensity to his game, similar to Ant in that sense. When he gets going, he's borderline unstoppable, right? So yeah, it is interesting. But I do agree with you. Ultimately, I think I have to go with the Knicks. Cat, that fit, the depth that they've created there. And overall, just how they look after this offseason, you just have to give the nod to them. But
yeah, because like when you look at their team, like they have a legitimate playoff 8. They got 8 guys easily. They can impact the game when it comes down to the postseason. So yeah,
no, I agree with you, man. Let's fly through some other newsworthy topics here, just as we continue to catch up on the off season here. Just a precursor for everybody that is watching right now. First of all, if you could hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, greatly appreciate that. Hit the like on the video to help us grow here. But aside from that, we will be coming with more what should I call it, wholesome previews for the season next week. We'll get in here and dive a little bit deeper into the other teams, but we will be talking heavy Sixers and Warriors to end the show here. But let's fly through some of the topics that are newsworthy. First of all, I wanted to pay our respects to Dikembe Mutombo. Obviously passed away over the last week. Was a big hit to the NBA community as a whole. I know he was a big role model for a lot of guys, especially guys like Joel Embiid that also came from Africa over into the NBA, over into America. And he kind of led the way in that regard, right? He was one of the first players to do that and have major success. And you just got to pay the respects. He died at a pretty young age, given everything that we have at our hip here as far as resources. And, I believe it was brain cancer that he ended up passing from, which it sucks to hear that. I know I'll never forget Dikembe Mutombo. It's not like he was one of like my favorite players ever or anything like that. It's not like that. I wasn't a Rockets fan or anything. But yeah, that's just iconic, bro. Like he is a legend for that. He's a legend for that. So definitely wanted to pay some respects to him, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, he got one of the most iconic, signature. You can never forget this.
The finger wag, man. That's it. Yeah, that is iconic. That's legendary.
Shout out Mutombo, man. One of the greatest shot blockers to ever come through the NBA, man. So salute.
R.I.P., man. R.I.P. Some other guys, injury related, I guess you could say. Lonzo Ball set to return for the Chicago Bulls this year, man. Let me ask you this: if Lonzo Ball all of a sudden looks like what he did when he first got to Chicago, can he revive Zach LaVine's career and his value? Do you think could you see something like that with the Bulls?
I think so, but I was finna say hell no, because I thought you finna ask me, could they potentially make the playoffs if he, come back in that mode? I would say hell no, but yeah, I could definitely see him doing that because we know how Lonzo, he's a damn good passer, and
yeah,
before he went down, I think that first year they put him, DeMar, and Zach together. They had a pretty good run, and he was making a lot of good plays with Zach and Caruso, DeMar. So yeah, I could definitely see that. And speaking of Zach LaVine, Josh Giddey as well, him playing alongside another playmaker like that I'm sure it's only going to elevate his game. But to answer your original, question, yeah, I can see Lonzo for sure elevating Zach.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And the reason I asked that is because they were flying high up until him and Zach LaVine go down with their injuries, 2 years ago or so?
Yeah,
when Ball got to Chicago. So we've been waiting a while for Lonzo Ball's return. There were rumors last season that he wasn't ever going to return, that he wasn't ever going to be able to get back to fully healthy. So it's great to hear that he's coming back. Another guy Another guy. I'm gonna throw this one to you because you know how I feel about Ben Simmons. How much stock in Ben Simmons are you buying into off these little
Uh,
shooting and workout videos this summer, bro?
I will say this. I literally just read Patrick Beverly tweet not too long ago, and I would say that's a rare Patrick Beverly win. He's absolutely
Yeah,
right.
facts.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, you go on his X page and find it at Patrick Beverly. But basically, nah, man, I gotta see it, man. Like, man, he's been fooling us for too long, and this says a lot because I actually been rooting for the guy. I always try to say that, it takes time, but he definitely gonna have to show us because just because he's hitting threes in the open gym does not mean anything, man. We see this a lot with a lot of NBA players, but yeah, Ben gonna have to show me, man, for sure.
Nah, you know how I feel, man. I
Yeah,
gotta
we know
see him
you feel, man.
play more than 20 games this season before I can believe
Because
anything.
correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he a free agent after this season? So this is
Yeah,
this is a
contract year.
pretty important season, man. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let alone a contract year. I mean, staying in the NBA year, right? Like you
yeah,
got to
staying
play
in
for
the
your
NBA.
spot in the league because his value has sunk a
Because I
lot.
will say this though, his teammates, have been hyping him up. I seen Dorian Finney-Smith. I think Dayron Sharp. I think they
Yeah,
said some pretty positive things about
Cam
him.
Johnson.
Yeah, Cam Johnson saying a lot of guys sleeping on them, and Ben Simmons back in the mix. So I mean, hey, we'll see how things go, man. I still don't got them
He
making the
can
play in though.
pass.
So
He can pass. I'll give him that. Like he's always
yeah,
been
for
a
sure, he
great
definitely
facilitator.
has for
Like
sure. Yeah,
so that is one thing I do expect him to get back to:
Darius has the same
rebounding,
shit. We'll see.
passing, defense. He should be good on the defensive end of things, but it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see how that plays out for him. Can they be a playoff team? I don't know in the Eastern Conference. The
I
bottom of
don't
the
know.
East
I got the
is
Hornets over them, man. I think the Hornets will make it before them.
yeah, the Hornets. That's interesting. You got a big jump from Brandon Miller this year.
Yeah, and a hefty Lonzo Ball, man. I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, man. He finally wearing those
Lamelo,
ankle
Lamelo.
braces, man. It took him like what 5 years to finally realize that he got to start wearing those ankle braces, man. Like,
Got the weak ankles.
yeah, man.
Nah, I feel you. That's interesting. We'll have to dive into the Hornets in one of these episodes before the real season starts there towards the end of this month. But all that being said, man, did you have any topics around the league that you were looking at? Anything else you wanted to bring? Actually, I wanted to throw this one to you. Just
Here we
remember, I
go.
saw James Harden says that the
Oh,
league has had to adjust to his style of play. How do you feel about that, man? Like his style of play. Do you feel that the league has kind of taken a shift since Harden really had his glory days in Houston, just like the drawing of fouls, the facilitating, spacing the floor, that type of
yeah,
uh
man. I definitely agree with him. I'm
shift?
not gonna lie. I agree with him. I think that
I kind of
the
do
league
too.
did. I mean, if you think about it, like he was one of the first ones I seen start doing that foul baiting shit. Like you seen Trey Young a master. You seen Jimmy. It's a lot of guys that has done it, but James Harden back in 2019, man, he was a master at it, and since then, not get me wrong, a lot of times you could definitely argue that some of those were offensive fouls, but he just finessed the system so much that the referee just rewarded him.
Yeah,
And years later, I mean, like the names I just mentioned, even the guy like SGA, like those guys it's literally
it's a skill.
it's a skill to draw fouls like that,
It
man.
is
Even your guy Joel Embiid, bro, like he's
big as
like
hell. Somehow
as a
able to do
center
it.
to do that, man, like
I think he
it's a
got a little
skill.
bit of it from Harden, man, when he was on the squad. I think he
That's
started
fair,
doing
that's
it
fair enough. That's
a
fair
little
enough.
bit better with a little more intention when Harden got
But
there. Same with Maxey. I think Maxey, he's tried to add, he just doesn't have the respect of the whistle yet. But you see it kind of everywhere Harden goes, throughout his career, man. But the actual quote, I wanted to get it pulled up here. He was asked about how he's had to adjust throughout his career over the years to the NBA. And his answer was, I'm the one the NBA has had to adjust to. He also mentioned that he feels like he's in the best shape that he's been in the last 5 to 6, 7 years.
mm,
So Who knows? Maybe he got on the LeBron James diet. I don't know. Maybe he did slim up, man. There's a lot of guys that are talking like that. Like they've cleaned themselves up a little bit. PG was talking about it. Joel Embiid said he lost 20, 25 pounds this offseason. So maybe it's a trend, bro.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun season, man. I don't know if you my
it's
guy
competitive.
My guy Kevon Looney lost a lot of weight, bro. He started shooting threes.
So. Did he? Yeah, he needed to too. That's good, man, because he's obviously a great hustle guy.
But yeah, but a guy like James Harden, I mean, he's the clear-cut second option now, so we'll see how he embrace that role or whatever. But did you have anything to say on that last question before I ask you something?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, speaking of Harden, it just popped up in my head about the Clippers. I don't know if you kept up with any of the things that they said on Media Day, but the things they were saying about Paul George, man, was not.
No, I did not see that. It
was like Norman Powell just got straight to it, bro. Like, basically, I think the question was something along the lines of like, about Paul George leaving, like how does that affect the team? And Norman Powell answer was basically like, it was what is it, like a addition by subtraction or something like that? Like, basically just saying that it's a better opportunity for him. Now that Paul George is gone, so
that's fair. That's fair. Okay, that adds a little more context. Like it gives him an opportunity. Maybe he gets into the starting lineup now or something. Addition by subtraction, I don't know in the West, man. I think you need star power out there. I think you need guys like Paul George. And it's funny, man. Everything that I'm hearing out of Philadelphia's camp is this guy is like this piece that has came in and he's willing to do whatever is needed of him. He's talked about it in his press conferences, how he's willing to take a back seat to Joel. He's willing to take a back seat to Tyrese Maxey. Maybe it is just the perfect time in his career for a situation in Philadelphia compared to the Clippers where maybe they relied on him a little too much, right?
Yeah.
So that is interesting. Though. That's interesting. Norman Powell would say that little rivalry there when those two teams play.
I will say this though, man. I don't know if me and you ever had a chance to talk about this, but I think that some like I'm not scared to say it. Like maybe you won't say it, but I think some of your Sixers fans is nuts, man. I'm not gonna.
Why you say?
Because
why you say that? I'm curious now.
Because man, like obviously we know Paul George, his history in the playoffs. It ain't been too friendly, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to view it from this standpoint. If you go back to last season, if you replace Tobias Harris with Paul George, do you consider that a win? I consider that a damn win in my book because I guarantee you that Paul George will not score 0 points in one of the most important games during the postseason.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't view it as that. So, because when y'all made that sign and, I seen a lot of Sixers fans not happy as far as like the money y'all gave him and whatnot. But, I can kind of understand to a certain degree. But if you want to be competitive in this league, man, you got to pay, man. So,
man.
Darren Moore did his due diligence.
Exactly how I feel.
Going out there and getting the job done.
I do think when this first happened, right, some of the other deals weren't done yet. So, like the Caleb Martin deal wasn't done yet. I don't think we had brought in Kelly Oubre back just yet. Maybe we did. I might be wrong there. But I don't think the roster was as complete once Paul George was actually signed as it is now. Yeah. But there's hard-headed Sixers fans out there for sure that no matter what, they're going to doubt this team this year because they've been through hell. It feels like every single season Joel gets injured. We go to the postseason, same old story, right? But I do agree with you. I think just the simple point of let's forget about the roster overhaul that they've done completely and just think about Paul George for Tobias Harris. That strictly. When you add in all the other stuff, which we'll get into here shortly, it's a no-brainer for me, bro. I'm very excited for this season. But I did want to ask you something before we get to our squads, and maybe right after this we can hop right over into the Sixers. But I did just want to get your short list of legitimate title contenders going into this season. So however many can legitimately go through their conference, get to the conference finals, get to the NBA finals, and win it. Not just get there, Not, you know what I mean? Not this
Yeah.
young uprising team. Who are the teams that you legitimately think can win the championship? And I can throw you mine first if you want, or if you want to go first, whatever you want to do here, brother.
Yeah, I can go ahead and go first.
Yeah, talk to me.
So let's start in the Western Conference. So for me, in no particular order, I would have to go with Dallas.
Yep.
I love the additions that they made. They literally addressed exactly what they needed. So yeah, I would go Dallas. I would go OKC.
Yeah.
Man, and I'm gonna say it, man. I'm gonna go with the Sacramento Kings.
Ooh, the Kings. That's interesting.
I'm gonna
It's
go with
interesting, but I don't hate it, man.
That's it for me in the West right now. Everybody else is gonna have to show me.
The Nuggets?
Nah, I'm not really. I'm not seeing it, man. They didn't
Not on
really
the
get.
Nuggets this year.
They didn't really get necessarily a lot better.
You know? I do feel you. And I mean, it
running
seems
it
like
back,
they. I want to take a look at their roster really quick here, if I can find them.
I mean, you think they lost KCP, they brought in Russ, they brought in Dario. The rookie they drafted, Dayron Holmes, he got injured. He's out for the whole season. So, I mean, when you look at the additions that they added, plus what they already had, I don't think it just moves the needle for me right now. I mean, like I say, like Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, those guys can take massive leaps this upcoming season.
Solid.
You know?
They're solid.
Yeah, they can make massive leaps, but that's a huge what if, so.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I still do put them in that category just out of respect for Jokic.
I got a ton of respect for the Joker.
And what he can do just with a team, right? Make the team look better than maybe even what it is. But it's a great, you might be ahead of something there. I think you might be ahead of something there. So
in the East?
Yeah, what about the East? I got three teams in the East.
Obviously the Celtics. So
yeah, easily.
Obviously
they might win it again. Yeah,
they might win it again. And yeah, I mean, I go with the Knicks. They're my second favorite. Then I gotta go with your Sixers.
Wow, you put the Knicks ahead of the Sixers.
Yeah, man, I had to. Hey, bro, their team is literally built to match up against the Celtics. So I gotta go.
But are they built to match up against the Sixers?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You think so? I mean, we can talk about this for sure. I'm curious who's going to guard Joel Embiid, but is it Cat? Cat's going to do that?
No, it's going to be OG, and Cat going to be in the weak side, ready to help. So hey, and plus, like at the end of the day, it's not about stopping Joel Embiid; it's about containing him to the best of your ability. So hey.
Who's containing it? We gotta see. I'll give you this. We gotta see Joel get to the postseason healthy. But I feel you. It is those three teams for me as well. I do have the Sixers naturally.
I'm trying to see is there anybody else, man, before I move on. Because I think all the other teams about what, like the Magic, Pacers, Cavs, Bucks. Yeah, I think that's maybe it, man.
Bucks are the team maybe if Dame could have, I don't want to call it a bounce back year, but a better year than last year. I don't know though. Doc Rivers. I forgot about Doc Rivers, bro. Nah, yeah, the Bucks aren't on my list.
And can Chris Middleton stay healthy?
Yeah, and can they find some youth, right? Some young talent in their group. That's going to be interesting as well. No, I went with the Celtics, Knicks, and Sixers as well from the East. I went with the Nuggets, OKC, Mavs, and I actually went with the T-Wolves still in there for me, and the Suns. And I know I know people are not going to love that pick, but I don't know, man. I just have a weird feeling about KD coming off the Olympic run with Devin Booker and shit. I don't know. That one is, I put an asterisk next to the Phoenix Suns because that's one that I understand other people will not have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, they have a pretty good team. It's just my only problem with the Suns is that they're not going to address the elephant in the room, and they're not going to do it, which is bring Bradley Beal off the bench, which I can understand. You paying this guy a ton of money, but The
Got to
starting
swallow
lineup,
that one.
the starting lineup for what I've seen from media day is going to be Tyus, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Nurkic. But in my opinion, I feel like Russ O'Neal or Grayson Allen has to be in that lineup because
Yeah.
none of those guys, like who's going to guard, ball for you? Like none of those guys. Don't get me wrong, Devin Booker, he did a phenomenal job in the Olympics. He guarded his tail off. But is he really up for the task? 82 games. I don't know about that, man. You got guys like Russ O'Neal who embraces being like, that dog on the defensive end. And even Grayson Allen, he's a pretty tough defender as well. So
Yeah, he's athletic, and it's an interesting thought, man. And I have bias, so take this with a grain of salt, everyone. Grayson Allen might be better than Bradley Beal. Like, am I tripping? Like, Bradley Beal, like, if you're asking somebody to come in and like be a number one for your team, maybe Bradley Beal's better in that regard. But from a team holistic standpoint, you're just asking for a guy to play a role in a team next to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Grayson Allen might be better than Bradley Beal in that sense. Am I tripping?
no, you're not tripping. Like Grayson Allen, he had a hell of a season last season. I mean,
Shot
I
like
don't know if
50%
he
from the
led the
three.
league in three. Yeah, he
Yeah,
had a pretty
he
good
did.
season, man. So yeah,
49.9% from the 3-point
that
line.
is
Like, that's
crazy.
crazy.
On a pretty good amount of attempts, by the way, too.
Yeah.
About like
He was
4 or
like
5 a game.
he's one of the guys that shot the most threes on that team last year. So they're an
Yes.
interesting team. It's not a for sure, but they did make my list somehow here. The other team that I did have an asterisk next to, I had an
Golden State.
asterisk next to the Bucks. I had an asterisk next to the Pelicans. Golden State's interesting though, bruh. And
Yes.
I'm interested to talk with you
Yeah, it is.
about them because I want to see where your head's at. Because I don't know how to really feel about the Warriors, quite honestly. This is a very different season for them. No Klay Thompson. Like, it
Is.
feels weird.
It does. Like it definitely. I don't know, bro. I don't know how to feel neither, man. Like it's just going to be an interesting season. Like I will say this. I think we definitely, have the personnel to be a top defensive team in the league.
Yeah.
We got D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton, got Brandon Pajemski, got Draymond, Wiggins, Kaminga, Moses, Moody, Trace, Looney. I feel like Kyle Anderson as well, and I feel like all those guys, have the mentality to, you know, be dogs on defense. And
Yeah.
Steve Kerr kind of alluded to it a lot during media day that we have to be a top defensive team. So I definitely feel like that's um, a part that we could definitely hang our hat on and just being dogs on defense. Now,
Yeah.
offensively, we still got a lot to figure out. Like, can Andrew Wiggins get back in that, 2022 mode of being our second option? Or can Jonathan Kaminga take this massive leap and become a 20-point per game scorer in the NBA? So it's a lot, that we got to, see
A lot of
how.
question marks.
Yeah, it's a lot of question mark, but overall, I'm still excited for this year. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
I'm still
it's a
excited.
little different for you. I think, from my perspective outside, I can see where you would be excited because there's a lot of youth on the squad. It's a lot of
Yeah.
newness in a sense, right? Which could be
Yeah.
good compared to like last season, which was kind of I don't know. I felt for you last season. It was kind of a drag in a sense.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
A lot of trade rumors with Kaminga, and I am interested to see if those continue into this season. Do some of these guys continue to acquire interest? But who do you think is going to be your starting lineup this year?
Oh man, I wrote down a lot of options.
Yeah,
A lot of options.
I wrote
But
down one option that
I
I
think,
thought, but you would know better than me for sure.
me personally, this kind of confirmed my lineup because during media day, Draymond said that he don't necessarily mind playing the center, but he loves playing with the center. So if you can read through the lines,
Yeah,
that can kind of tell you right there
yeah,
that he would prefer to play with
the
another
four.
guy. Yeah, you would prefer to play the 4 than the 5 because he is getting older and it's a lot that comes with being a 4-time center. But I think the starting lineup we would go with Steph, Wiggins at the 2, Kuminga at the 3, Draymond at the 4, and then Trace Jackson Davis at the 5. I think
Oh,
that'd
okay.
be a good lineup. But I know a lot of people kind of worry about spacing issues, but I feel like what do we have to lose, man? Like if Wiggins can get back to at least around 37 to 38% from 3-point range, and Kaminga can give us at least, I say 35, 36, I feel like we'll be able to hold our own. Because with that lineup, you're athletic. It's like a different mixture of skill sets. With
Yeah,
Steph,
yeah,
Draymond, Kaminga, Trace, and Wiggins. So yeah, I would love to see that lineup for sure.
yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. That does sound just different from something that even Steph Curry throughout his career, different from what he's played with around him. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the different skill sets that you speak of, and you do have like a deep ass team. You still got Gary Payton, right? Gary Payton, is
yeah,
it
we
the
still got him. Yeah, we still
second?
got him.
Kevin Looney. You mentioned Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody. You mentioned DeAnthony Melton, Buddy Hield. Like where does Buddy Hield fit into this? Is he like the 6-man scoring punch? Like, how do you see Buddy Hield fitting along with this team?
I feel like Buddy going to play regardless. I mean, he's our second
Yeah,
best shooter, so he's going to find minutes regardless. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be times where guys outside of Steph can't hit shots, and Buddy's the guy to call upon. So I feel like he's going to fit in, no problem, whether he starts or come off the bench.
yeah. No, I feel you, and I think the big thing for y'all this season that you'll kind of notice in it. The only reason I bring this up is because both of these players were on Philadelphia last season, and
Yeah, Buddy and D Melton.
what you'll think about is like, do we play DeAnthony Melton? Now, D Melt, the thing is, he can play a little bit of the one as well. He's not who you'd want, running your offense full
Yeah, I
time by any
understand. Yeah,
means, but he can do it if needed. You're gonna come to an influx between Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton, and it's like DeAnthony Melton can shoot it. He's not nearly as good a shooter as Buddy Hield, but much better defender. He has a lot more of those intangibles. Whereas Buddy
yeah,
Hield's going to come in, he's going to space the floor, he's going to be a quick trigger.
yeah,
That's something to keep an eye on as well. How did those guys kind of fit with the rest of your talent that was already there as well?
yeah.
The Pods, the Moses Moody's of the world.
Yeah, I'm
So
actually, I'm
be
really
interesting.
hoping. I'm really hoping that this is the season that Steve Kerr give Moses consistent minutes, man. Like, I think this is the season for him to have a breakout year. He just
Yeah.
had to get consistent runs, man, for sure. But hopefully, Steve Kerr realized that, because if not now, when? I mean, this is his 4th year. He's up for a contract extension, so we'll see how things go, man.
I'll tell you this, man. Like I know in Sixers country right now, at least from what I see on X, um, a lot of Sixers fans have their eyes on Moses Moody as like a trade deadline target or a trade deadline acquisition for the Sixers.
Yeah,
Kuminga is another name that is thrown out there. I think that one's a little more unrealistic, obviously,
yeah, for sure.
given what Kuminga is, and what he could turn into this year. But it is interesting. Like we have KJ Martin, who is just like the contract. It's not really the player that you're
Yeah,
looking
it's
at
a
there.
it's a balloon contract.
It's a balloon contract. We got draft compensation, so we could toss that out to acquire kind of that missing piece to whatever we feel is needed on the roster. It's something that's been floated around. Trey Murphy the third's been thrown out there as well, which New Orleans
Yeah,
would be dumb as hell to trade that man.
I
He is like
seen
such
him.
a key piece to any championship team,
Yeah,
bro.
I seen him linked to the Knicks, man. I was like, wow, because
I would be blown, bro.
it
I
was
really
something.
he's
It
one
was
of my
something along
favorite
the
players
lines
in
of
the
like a
league.
Mitchell Robinson in the deal as well. I was like, how interesting would that be?
Like Mitchell Robinson next to Zion. Maybe Zion's on the way out. I don't know. That sounds disgusting too. But
I mean, they kind
yeah,
of need. I guess they feel like they need more size. I don't know, man.
yeah. They let Valanciunas go this
Yeah, so they
offseason.
got
So
the rookie and Daniel Tice. So that's going to be their rotating centers. So
yeah. So I
and I
see. I
guess
think like one
Zion would
difference.
play small ball center as well. I don't know, man.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy. The Pelicans, they were one of the teams I had an asterisk next to as far as like title contenders because it highly depends on health of Zion and it highly depends on
So
them putting the right pieces to fit together. But
So with the war, like one last thing about
yeah,
them, I do definitely think we will make a trade because we have a lot of guys. It's the
yeah.
same thing from last year, bro. We have too many guys at the same position. Like you can't
Who's
play
gonna
everybody.
fall out of the lineup?
Yeah, who's gonna like guys going to get frustrated. So I do feel like eventually down the line we're going to make a trade, maybe even before the trade deadline. So Yeah, but let's talk about your Sixers, man.
Well, I did have just a couple more questions about the
Oh,
Warriors
okay,
before
okay,
we
okay.
moved on here. But I wanted to ask you just a question off what you just said. Which one of these guys would you feel is like the best candidate for the Warriors to move? Like from your perspective, who would you want to
Mhm.
move?
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Who? Man, that's interesting, man.
Or who do you think it would
Okay,
be? Who do you think it will be?
I
Is
think
a
it
better
would.
question.
I think it would be Moses, and I wanted him to go anyway because I felt like they just wasn't doing right by the guy. Like
Yeah,
he would literally
too good for
do,
his role.
yeah, like he would literally do everything. I feel like, and he still just would not get consistent minutes. And I was like, man, for this guy to be young in the NBA, he really needs to go to maybe like a young team like Charlotte or the
Yeah,
Pistons, a place where he could get more runs. But
figure
with
out his
Golden
game.
State, it just wasn't doing right by the guy. So Moses, for me, I've always said him, but outside of him, I said a guy like Gary Payton too. Like it's number love, fan favorite,
Yeah,
but he just can't stay healthy. And
yeah,
we just talked about the balloon contract. He's the guy who's making like
yeah,
around $8 to $9 million. If you were to combine, his contract with a Kevon Looney, that's around like 17, $18 million.
yeah.
You add a free picks
You
with
get
that.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you add a free picks. Who's to say what we can go out there and get? So yeah,
yeah.
aside of Mood, I had to go with GP2.
Yeah, and Moody, like I said, he is a name that pops up in Sixers Twitter as well. I'm guessing for the reasons that you listed off there, as well. And the thing about it is they go out, they bring in DeAnthony Melton, they go out, they bring in Buddy Hield, and it's like you just fill in that space even
Yeah,
more. You got Pods, right? He's gonna start at that two guard, I would imagine, right? Or if not start, he's gonna come off the
yeah,
bench and play a
backup
role in
point
that.
guard. Yeah, yeah, backup
Yeah,
point guard.
so that's interesting. It's interesting to think about there. Yeah, what I wanted to ask you just to kind of end the Warriors talk there. Where do you see them ranking in the West, and what's your ceiling and floor for them this season? Just as far as like second round of the postseason, make the playoffs. Like where do you see the end of the road for them? And where do you see their ceiling or their floor?
I definitely say we are a better team than last year for sure. Um,
Is the West better than last year?
that is true because you got Memphis, the Rockets, and the Kings coming
All
back,
stepping
but
back up. Yeah,
um, I'll say we'll make the playoffs. At best, I can see us making the playoffs. Now, when we get in the playoffs, I don't know how things going to go because it's a lot of what ifs that we're banking
yeah,
on at the moment. So, but I would definitely say playoffs. But at worst, I could easily see us being not even in a play-in tournament for sure. If things don't turn out the way that a lot of us fans are kind of hoping that it would, I could definitely not see us not making a
so
play-in
that's the
tournament for
floor.
sure. So.
Yeah,
But hopefully we can make the playoffs. I think at best we could be like a 6 seed, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, because like I said, we have the personnel to be one of the best defensive teams in this league. It's just
yeah.
kind of a matter of putting like the combinations together and just seeing how things, pan out from there. So yeah, I could definitely see us being like a 6 seed for sure.
Yeah, no, I that's close to what I had um written down here. I had them, if I had to make a prediction, I would say anywhere from 7 to 9 in the West. Ceiling second round of the playoffs. I think, all things go great if Kaminga can become an all-star, right? And get to closer to his ceiling. He's not going to get to his ceiling in one season, but closer
Um,
to it.
yeah,
They could get to the second round. I could see it. Steph Curry gets hot playing at MVP level, and guys are playing good around him. I could see you guys getting to the second round of the playoffs. It's once you get there, that's when it gets a little foggy for me in the West, especially. My floor, I had play-in tournament for the Warriors, so it's similar in a sense.
yeah, similar.
Um, it's
Say like one
interesting.
last thing.
Kind of lower your expectations this season in a sense.
Yeah, man, I gotta be realistic. A lot of these fans they're not being realistic with themselves, man. Like, I know what Steph about. I know what Draymond Green about when he want to play.
Yeah,
But it's going to take just more than them two to will us to the promised land. Klay Thompson is
yeah,
gone. We still got Steve Kerr, so I'm not getting too ahead of myself. Just taking it one game at a time, and we'll see how things go. But speaking of All Star, we hosting the All-Star game this year, and it would be nice for another guy to join Steph out there. So hopefully Kaminga or even Andrew Wiggins, they have an All-Star type of season, man, and they can go,
Yeah,
to the All-Star game with Steph. Considering the fact that we hosting it.
I could see Kaminga, man. I really could see him taking that kind of jump, just getting into that 20 to 25 point per game
Yeah, man.
range.
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see it. That's what I had written down here as well. I wrote down like what I think is the key to the Warriors season.
Yeah,
I
for
think it
sure.
is
Yeah,
Jonathan Kaminga, man.
it
You
is,
could throw
man. It is.
Moses Moody in there as well, like figuring him out if he can get into the rotation full time. But Jonathan Kaminga is like that star. He's the guy that can be a star
He's the
this
guy.
season.
He's the guy.
Yeah. So it's interesting, man. Let's switch over to the Eastern Conference. Talk a little bit about my Sixers here. Just looking at what they did, holistically this offseason, man, I couldn't be prouder of Daryl Morey. I take everything bad that I ever said about him back.
Yeah.
I was significantly impressed this offseason. So the roster as of right now, man, you got Nick Nurse at the head coach. You got Tyrese Maxey obviously starting at point guard. It's presumed that PG, Caleb Martin, and Kelly Oubre are going to start at the 2 through 4, right? However they figure it out position wise, and then Embiid at the 5, obviously coming off the bench. We got Andre Drummond, the best backup big that Embiid has ever had in his career. We got Reggie Jackson, guy that can he can get a bucket, man. I'm excited about Reggie Jackson. I like that acquisition.
Yeah, Reggie
Eric
is a
Gordon?
character, bro.
He is a character. He's bringing life to the team. I've seen that in some of the videos.
I remember he broke out during the game doing that Bobby Smurda dance. I said,
and he looks exactly like the
he looks exactly like him.
He does seem like a funny guy, man. They brought in Eric Gordon, another guy that can space the floor around Joel, around PG, around Maxey. Kyle Lowry comes back. Ricky Council, there's a lot of hype around him, man, coming out of summer league, all of it, bro. Nick Nurse is hyping this man up. Yabusele, right? Gab Yabusele from France. He's coming back over from Real Madrid. He got the show out in the Olympics, dunking on LeBron.
Yeah, I was finna say LeBron said he got to get his get back, man. So,
he does, bro. That's one of the most iconic dunks in Olympic history. I mean, it's not up there with the Vince Carter, John, but it's up there. I mean, you dunk on LeBron, that's up there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, dunking on LeBron alone, that has a lot.
That is a thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is
an accomplishment for sure. I agree with you. KJ Martin is another guy that is interesting to me off the bench. Like I said, he does have the balloon contract. He most likely gets traded, but he's still a guy that could be used at times. My man, Jared McCain, though. My man Embiid came out in a recent press conference and said that Jared McCain has been the best player at camp so far. So I thought that was really interesting because Joel, he doesn't give out praise like that just to give it out, right? He said he's loved the tenacity that the guy plays with, the defensive prowess, the playmaking, the shot-making ability. He's getting a lot of hype out of camp that he's going to be able to get into the rotation somehow, which if he does that with the type of depth they're working with at the guard position, that says a lot to me. But I'll throw it to you. What do you think of some of these acquisitions, the Paul Georges, the Caleb Martin, bringing Kelly Oubre back, Andre Drummond? What are your thoughts there?
To be honest, man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I was excited for you, bro. Just the acquisition that y'all, the also you got to get Darren Moore his props. I mean, he went out there and got Paul George, but not only did he do that, you named all the role players y'all have,
Caleb Martin,
guys.
though.
Yeah, all those guys.
That was the biggest
bro.
surprise for me, Caleb Martin.
Yeah, all those guys are going to be, vital for y'all postseason run, man. Just a matter of, being healthy. But yeah, like I said, I got to give Darren Moore his props on that. And I like this Sixer team. They could definitely go out there and compete with the best of them. I mean, you got wing depth, you got guards. You brought back Andre Drummond. It's, Nick Nurse. So yeah, man, I love what y'all done. It's A+ offseason if you ask me. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I liked what Darius said in the comments earlier in the show when we were talking about that cat trade to New York, because he pointed out, maybe what the Sixers did after the Knicks go out and trade for Mikal Bridges, maybe the Sixers moves push the Knicks to take another step and try to go out and get Cat. Maybe it's not the case, right? Maybe they were always going to move Julius Randle. That does make sense as well, but just something to keep an eye on as you see these teams just trying to compete and keep up with each other in the
I want to
Eastern
say this
Conference,
too,
right?
though. Like if you really think about it, y'all actually have the potential to get even more better.
Yeah.
Like you got Kelly Oubre contract. Like we've been saying for like I hate to keep saying it, but the balloon contract of KJ Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a lot of tradable contracts if you
Got a
add
lot
it
of
up.
draft picks.
Yeah, draft picks. Maybe y'all can go out there and get a guy like not Josh Hart, but somebody that does the dirty work.
Something like that.
Hustle. Yeah, something
Yeah.
like a Dante. Guys like that. That ultimately help y'all get over the hump. So
Yeah, I think that's what they put
y'all in a good
themselves in
position for
position.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. They put themselves in a good position because they have, like, you look at what? Let me just point it out here. So you got Reggie Jackson, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, Jared McCain. There's even this kid Jeff Doughton Jr. who looks solid last year. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
I don't
he played for
hype
us
people
1
up.
year. Yeah, he played for us 1 year on the two-way
Solid
contract.
fundamental player, right? Like he's just solid.
Yeah, he's solid.
That's the best way to describe him. Some of these guys are going to be expendable at some point, like the KJ Martin, Ricky Council. If he can actually get minutes, if Jared McCain can actually get into the rotation, maybe we do see a KJ Martin and an Eric Gordon, or a KJ Martin and a Reggie Jackson, or something like that down the line. I'm not opposed to keeping those guys either. I don't want to make it seem like I want to get rid of them. Yeah, I'm excited for this roster as a whole, man. The way everything fits. And just everything that everybody's saying about Paul George. I said it earlier in the show, but Maxey said it, Embiid said it, and Paul George has even said it out of his mouth. Caleb Martin talked about it a little bit as well, but just his willingness to fit in as this superstar all-star throughout his career, right? Comes over from LA Clippers. We're basically fiending for the. I'll speak for myself. I was fiending for Paul George to be a Sixer in this offseason, bro. And for him to just come in and slide in and work just as hard as some of the younger guys, pass on some tips and tricks and advice to some of the younger guys. It's great to hear, because you do have the concerns, him coming from the Clippers, right? He did play with James Harden. You worry about what James Harden might have said to him about the Sixers. So there was a little bit of questionability about the move of him coming in, just from how does this fit personality-wise? He's moving his entire family from California to the East Coast. So it was something interesting, but it seems like he's handling it really well. And he even talked about being at the NBA Finals and already considering going to Philadelphia when Joel gave him that side eye. So yeah, I've loved everything I've heard so far, man. But
I'm gonna say this about PG, like there would be plenty of games where both Joel Embiid and Maxey can't get their shots to fall, but
yeah,
a guy like Paul George he's gonna come in clutch. So yeah. So what do you see is what are the Sixers ceiling to you? Like where do you see them, ultimately finishing out this season? Like, and do you see Paul George, being another All-Star for the 10th time, something like that?
Is it 10? Is it 10?
I think it's 10. Yeah, because
he's been in the league for a minute, so that would make sense. Yeah. Ceiling, man. I'll be honest. Like, do I see them beating the Celtics? Like, say they match up with the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Am I going to go out and say, like, the Sixers are better than the Celtics? No, I don't think the Sixers are going to finish ahead of the Celtics in the regular season. I think they will be a second or a third seed in the Eastern Conference. So to be clear about the expectations, or what I think is their ceiling, I do think they can make the NBA Finals. I think that's not out of the realms of possibilities. I think they can win the NBA championship. Do I think that they're first in line to do it? No, I don't look at it that way. I don't look at them as like the number one contender for the title, but I do think they could get there. Like they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, anything can happen at that point, right? Like we don't know. Joel could have his best postseason series ever against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're able to get through and get to the NBA Finals and maybe even win it. That's my ceiling. There is no ceiling this year. The expectation is that you go out and compete for a championship with these type of signings. My floor this season, what I'll say, so successful season for me, Slim, this year is conference finals. Losing to the Celtics is a successful season to me. And I know that sounds like a loser mentality.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
It's reality. Like losing to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals would be a W for me this season. So I don't know if that makes it my floor. It's not that. It's the floor of what I want to happen. But my floor would be like a 5 seed. Joel's in and out of the lineup in the regular season, or maybe even Paul George. Knock on wood, something happens to him, missing some time. And, we have some struggles, guys in and out of the lineup in the regular season, drop down to like that 5 seed, 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. I don't think they're the 5th or 6th best team by any means. I think they're the 2nd or 3rd. I think they're right there with the Knicks. I think the Knicks and the Sixers are in their own group. Then I think it's the Celtics. But I think the Knicks and the Sixers are right there. I think they're right there. But yeah, that would be my ceiling and my floor and just my ranking in the East. And then the key for them this season is keeping Joel healthy. I think they're built to where he does not need to play a ton in the regular season. They can afford to have him sit out some games this year. So
yeah, because I just thought about it. Y'all got that rookie. What's his name?
Adam Bona.
Yeah, Bona. Yeah, Bona. Yeah, I like Bona. Yeah, he got a nice skill set.
Yeah, I do like him as well. What about you? What do you think as far as their ceiling, maybe a floor? Like, where do you think they? I know you said after the Knicks earlier, so that was pretty clear. You got the Knicks. I got you. We're rivaling now, but no, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But what do you see with the Sixers, man?
The Eastern Conference. I think that's the sentiment because like I don't want to get too ahead of myself and just say. That they can beat Boston because hey, we know how good this team is. It's no secret.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're only going to get better. I think people kind of tend to forget that both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is kind of still young in a sense.
They're young, man.
They've been in the league for a while, but they still young. They still got a lot of room to grow. So I wouldn't just get too ahead of myself and just put Philly over Boston, but I could definitely see them, if a lot of things play in their favor, get to the Eastern Conference Finals, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
And this would be Joel Embiid's first time doing this, so this moment would definitely be special. But can he rise to the occasion and get the job done? Who knows? I could definitely see that.
It's so weird because I feel like the Knicks – excuse me, I got like some indigestion. I ate some spaghetti before I came over here, so I guess that's
this guy here, man.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's got me burping and stuff, bro. But it's really weird with the Knicks and the Sixers because I feel like they're very similar in what their outlooks should be this season. Like, I'm not comfortable losing to the Knicks in the postseason. Like, that's not acceptable to me, but I do understand that it could happen. Like, I understand that the Knicks are good enough. They're good enough. But I also feel like the Knicks should feel that way as well. They should feel the exact same way. They should feel like they should not lose to the Sixers, but they should understand that, like you said, if things go well for the Sixers, if all things go right, it can happen. So I think there are two teams that just in like a very almost identical spot in a sense with their off seasons. Their off seasons that they've had come with a ton of expectations for them to reach this season. So it will be interesting. Who is your 4th team in the East? Just before we end the show here, I'm just curious because you gave me your top 3, and I think those are the clear 3. But you didn't sound confident in the Bucks. So who is your 4th there?
No. I didn't necessarily have the Bucks. I said I was just throwing a name out there, just to.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you weren't confident in them, so it's not them. It's not them.
Man, that's a
For me,
good
it's the
question, man.
Pacers, bro.
Because yeah, I was
The
just going to
Pacers.
say because it's like, man, I don't want to disrespect Cleveland like that because
I feel you.
I think that this the year Mobley have a breakout offensive season, man. I really do. I think they're going to run more sets for him and run the offense through him a little bit more than they did in
Yeah,
previous years. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Cleveland on that, bro. I like what they did in the offseason as well, in a way. Even though they do much, but they extended their core, so obviously they got some belief in those guys. So I'm gonna go with Cleveland, man.
I like it. I like it, man. People forget about Spida, and I think I
Yeah,
forgot
sure,
about it
yeah,
too. What he
Spider.
looks like in the postseason, right?
Yeah, Spider,
Um,
one of those guys, man.
he's
Who
one
ever
of
play
those
his
guys.
game. Yeah,
Yeah, he can win you a game. The
me
Orlando
too.
Magic are
Can win
interesting.
series.
I'm trying to think here. I think like the Magic, the
They had a
Pacers, the
Magic
Cavs.
had a solid offseason, man.
They did. KCP. They added somebody else too, right? I feel like I'm forgetting
Mm,
someone.
they basically just re-signed the guys that had like Jonathan Isaac and well, was it a Franz Wagner brother? Uh,
Yeah, Moritz Wagner.
yeah,
And
so
then they
basically they
re-signed
just
Franz as well, I believe.
yeah, they
They got
basically
like
just contract extension, re-signing guys they already had and brought in
yeah, you're
a
right.
guy like KCP, which is pretty huge for them. I feel like that's definitely a move
More
that's
spacing.
yeah, all NBA caliber defender.
Yeah, so I think I view all of them in like kind of the same category. And I think the Bucks, man, the Bucks and even the Miami Heat, it's like I'm not going to doubt them too much just because of the pedigree. They do still have Giannis there. They still have Jimmy down there in Miami. They have
Yeah,
Bam Adebayo.
yeah.
Um,
Never count Miami out.
I'm not
Never.
doubting these teams, but I guess I feel like I'm waiting for these teams to hit the cliff, if that makes sense. But maybe I'm wrong for that.
How about let's put it like this: if your Sixers, let's just say the number 2 seed, and the Bucks and the Heat are basically playing
7 and
to
8.
yeah, like
Yeah,
7 and 8, and they
like a
basically plan
plan.
to whoever win play you guys. So who would you prefer at that matchup though? The Bucks or
Mm.
Miami? Because it's not going to be easy. I think either way. I'm not gonna
Either
lie to
way,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
it's not going to be easy for sure. You're gonna have your work cut out for you. Well, you
It's
already got your
funny.
work cut out for you. So.
It's funny when you pose it that way. When you pose it that way, it feels like Miami and the Bucks should be ahead of those other teams. Like when you pose it that way, like which
Yeah.
teams would I rather match up with? Like I would rather match up with the Orlando Magic than either of those teams. And I don't know if that's fair to the Orlando Magic. Maybe I'm
Well, I
sleeping on them.
mean, that's pretty fair compared
But like
to
playing against Giannis, like do I
yeah,
really want to play
Giannis.
against Giannis in the postseason? Dame, what if Dame's just in Dame time mode, right? Like who knows? Miami, like to answer your question, first of all, I would rather play the Bucks because they have Doc Rivers as their head coach. Um,
Whoa,
the
whoa,
Miami Heat,
whoa.
I'm good on playing them in the postseason if I don't have to. Like
Yeah, that's
second
fair.
round, fine. I'll take the Miami Heat in the second round, but like first round, Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. They got Jaime Jaquez Jr. down there. They got a bunch of dogs. They got Eric Spoelstra, who can put it all
Terry Rozier,
together.
Tyler Hero, like
I trust the Miami Heat a lot more than I trust the Milwaukee Bucks. That's the best way to put it.
yeah, that's pretty fair.
So yeah, I would rather
That's
play the
fair.
Bucks.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
But man, we've been here for an hour and 8. To everybody that's viewing right now, please, please, please help us out. Hit the subscribe button on the To the
Yes,
Galaxy
sir.
Pod YouTube channel. And be
Season
sure
is
to give
here.
us a follow on X, man. You can find my man Slim here at RTR30111, myself at Scotty Drown. Slim, before we get out of here, my man, is there anything else that you wanted to hash out? We got a lot of time. The season's coming. It's here. It's
Yeah,
here. Basically, preseason's
yeah,
already
yeah. The
started, right?
season is
Like they're
here. Yeah,
already
for sure.
playing.
Yeah, the season is here. Yeah, but yeah, you gotta make man. Everybody just tap in, man, and make sure
Tap
that
in
this is gonna be a fun season. I promise you. Not just from a Warriors fan standpoint or a Sixers fan. It's gonna be a fun season. So
NBA.
make sure you
Yeah,
guys tap in and don't miss any more of this great content moving forward. So, like Scott just said, hit the sub button, turn notifications on, and yeah, let's get to it, man. The grind is here, man. The season
Yes,
is
sir.
here.
Tap in, turn the notifications on, hit the subscribe button, most importantly. And of course, follow us on X. That's going to be the easiest way to keep up with both of us when the show is, we might have special shows if deals happen, right? We'll go live in the moment. So just to keep track with us, be sure to give us a follow on X. You can also follow the pod on X at To the Galaxy Pod. So be sure to do that. Next week, we'll start jumping into kind of overviews for the season, right? More holistic view, start looking at some other teams outside of our own. I don't know. Do you want to start with Eastern Conference or Western Conference, man? How you feeling?
Let's go East. The
West is more interesting.
So
let's save that for last.
The West is loaded, man.
Yeah.
Loaded, bro.
So we'll be back. We'll be catching back up with you guys next week sometime whenever we can get free in our schedule, and we'll be able to provide a more distinct time when we'll be going live throughout the season. But for now, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for everybody that did decide to join in the comments. We hope to see more of you there in the future, sharing your thoughts, getting involved in the show. And once again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. That's going to be it for this episode of NBA To the Galaxy Pod. Peace. Everybody.